Everyone, at some point in their life, has come across a reality show. Whether it's The Traitors or Naked and Afraid, we've all stopped to take a look at these shows, no matter how bad they sometimes are. And seeing all this success, a Canadian production company crazy to stuff their pockets called Fresh TV had an idea. What if we made an animated series with this insanely profitable theme? And that's how it was born. A show that can be considered many things, except kid-friendly. In this program, we have nerds, rich girls, fat guys, troublemakers, country kids, ex-military type, and even criminal. It's basically a public school. And how could we forget that classic opening? That's what I call nostalgia. The show managed to reach an impressive total of 6 seasons and over 100 episodes. And that's not even counting the spin-off series, including the one that's completely made for kids. But was this show actually good, or is your childhood nostalgia just blinding you? Well, that's what I'm here to answer right now in this lovely little video. Because today, on this channel, all cameras are pointing at Total Drama Island. The show works like this. 22 unemployed teenagers are sent to a summer camp called Wawanakwa, somewhere random in Canada. The group is split into 2 teams, the Screaming Gophers and the Killer Bait. They take part in challenges that are, to say the least, highly questionable. The very first challenge, for example, is simply jumping off a cliff over 30 meters high into waters full of sharks. No big deal. The team that wins the challenges earns immunity for the round, and whoever wins the entire show takes home $100,000. Now, talking about the characters, besides the 22 contestants, we have 2 more. The chef, an ex-military cook who treats the competitors like soldiers in a war, and the most unhinged character in the entire show, Chris, the most sadistic reality show host you'll ever meet. The guy tortures the contestants without a shred of remorse. Just to give you an idea, he literally served trash for them to eat. Now, talking about the contestants, we have Gwen, a hot goth girl. Heather, the villain of the show, who's also hot. Izzy, a criminal wanted by the police, and also pretty tasty. Duncan, a delinquent who just got out of jail. Justin, a really handsome guy. Lindsay, a dumb blonde and hot, just the way I like it. Courtney, a girl who's obsessed with being the good rule-following one. Owen, a fat guy who only thinks about eating. Lashana, your typical loud, confrontational girl, but she's actually a good person and easily one of the best characters in the show. Jeff, a country dude who's always chill and just vibing with life. DJ, a sensitive brute. Bridget, another hot blonde. Trent, a good-looking guy. Ava, a hardcore gym rat full of rage. Harold, a gross nerd who's surprisingly great at dodgeball and beatbox. Sadie and Katie, 2 best friends who are always glued to each other. Beth, who looks like Chiquinha from El Chavo. Cody, a shy guy who thinks he's a player, but never actually gets anyone. Tyler, a dude who dresses like an athlete but can't do shit. Noah, an arrogant nerd who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. And Ezekiel, a weirdo who was raised on an isolated farm and has no idea how to interact with other human beings. With this fine group properly introduced, let's move on. As mentioned before, the contestants are split into 2 groups, and the team that loses the challenges has to vote out one of their own member. In other words, they have to eliminate someone from their own team, while the other team earns immunity for that round. The first challenge is jumping off a cliff into a marked circle. Small detail, the area around that circle is full of sharks. After that, they're given another task, building a hot tub completely on their own. Whoever finishes the hot tub first gets to keep it as a bonus, along with immunity. Bridget, Duncan, Tyler, Eva, and Jeff are the first ones to jump. DJ refuses to jump because of a childhood trauma, and because of that, he's forced to wear the chicken hat. Chris never misses a chance to mock the contestant. Absolute psychopath behavior. The rest of the campers complete the challenge, except for Courtney, who also refuses to jump and is also forced to wear the chicken hat. The team with the most people who jumped off the cliff would gain an advantage in the second part of the challenge. In this case, they'd receive wheelbarrows to help carry the materials for the hot tub. Meanwhile, the other team completely falls apart, with Heather and Lindsay refusing to jump. Out of nowhere, Lashana shows up, loses her patience, and in a very satisfying scene to watch, she and Heather start arguing until, in an act of pure justice, Lashana straight up throws that bitch off the cliff. Man, watching Heather get what she deserves is priceless, because she's a nasty, venomous snake and hot. And as if that moment wasn't good enough already, Lindsay, seeing her friend flying through the air, finally finds the courage to jump as well. The only one who completely freezes is Beth, who sadly ends up earning the iconic chicken hat. Meanwhile, the Screaming Gophers reach the camp first, and thanks to the wheelbarrows and everything else, manage to build the hot tub with no trouble at all. As for the Killer Bait, well, they do nothing but fight among themselves, wasting every possible chance at winning. Everything was lining up for Katie to be eliminated, but then, out of nowhere, Ezekiel, completely clueless, starts saying things that would get him instantly canceled on Twitter today. As a result, he gets kicked out on the spot and sent straight to the boat of losers. The second challenge is a 20-kilometer run around the lake, and when the race finally ends, the host offers the contestants a decent meal. Everyone eats without any issues, lose. But as we all know, Chris is a complete bastard, and he only gave them that feast to prepare them for the next challenge, which was staying awake for as long as possible. The last person still standing would win the challenge for their team. After 12 hours awake, everyone is already exhausted, and who takes the lead? Of course, Heather. Without wasting any time, she starts stirring up drama by proposing an alliance with Lindsay and Beth. But, you know, we all know that partnership isn't about friendship. She's just taking advantage of their naivety to manipulate everything in her favor. And then comes the first act of evil, stealing Eva's MP3 player without anyone noticing, with shady intention. The campers get so tired that they start having hallucinations. And in that moment, one of the couples in the series starts to stand out. That couple is Gwen and Trent, who begin talking, bonding, and clearly catching feelings. And man, how lucky is Trent to have the privilege of getting with that hot goth girl. I won't lie, I was insanely jealous. I really wanted that 2D character for myself. After 85 hours, only the two heavy hitters of the show were left, Gwen and Duncan. And when Duncan went to the bathroom to take that classic dump, he slipped up and ended up falling asleep, losing the challenge. That means Gwen is the winner, and the Screaming Gophers secure immunity. And remember how Heather stole Eva's MP3 player? Eva, not knowing who the sneaky thief was, started accusing everyone and caused total chaos. Because of that, everyone voted for her to leave, making her the second contestant eliminated from the show. Goodbye, Eva. Later you can give me the contact of the guys who sold you those steroids. I want that physique too. This time we get one of the most classic episodes of the series, the dodgeball episode, where we see all kinds of skills on display, like Cody, who's great at throwing, and Harold, who's amazing at dodging. That guy has definitely dodged losing his virginity his whole life. The vibe of the game starts off heavy, with Gwen and Duncan so exhausted from the previous challenge that they can't even play. Another one who does absolutely nothing is Noah, because as I said before, he thinks he's smarter than everyone else, and instead of playing, he just sits there reading a book. What an asshole. And since he didn't help at all, his team loses, and he's the one eliminated. Here, our beloved Harold gives it everything he's got and manages to win a one-on-one against Owen, securing the victory for his team. Next episode, the challenge is based on a talent show. Chris says both teams have 8 hours to choose 3 competitors to showcase their talents, and they'll be judged by Chef. The team that gets the most approval wins immunity. The Screaming Gophers choose Justin for being good-looking, Trent for playing the guitar, and Heather to dance ballet. Meanwhile, the Killer Bass choose Jeff to skateboard, DJ to dance with a ribbon, and Bridget because she can do a handstand for 20 minutes. After 4 performances, the Screaming Gophers are in the lead, because DJ trips over the ribbon and Bridget, does that. When it comes to the final performances, Heather shows up saying she's not going to dance. Instead, she reveals all the secrets from Gwen's diary live on television. See why she's a venomous snake. Among those secrets, she reveals that Gwen was in love with Trent. To make things worse, Jeff's skateboard breaks right before his performance. In a desperate move, they call Harold to the stage, and out of nowhere, he drops a nasty beatbox that impresses Chef so much that it guarantees the victory for his team. Once again, Harold saves the day. Heather, as always, manipulates everyone into voting for Justin, and he ends up being the one eliminated. Goodbye, Justin. We'll always remember how handsome and useless you were. Another thing that happens in this episode is Gwen throwing a whole collection of ants onto Heather's bed, getting revenge for her reading the diary. The next challenge is spending a night surviving in the middle of the forest, and the team that returns to camp first to have breakfast the next morning wins the challenge. This one is a bit more relaxed. Most of the contestants do just fine, but Sadie and Katie get lost along the way and start arguing, while the Screaming Gophers are attacked by a bear that later turns out to be Izzy in disguise. But then a real bear shows up, forcing them to take refuge up in the tree. Meanwhile, the Killer Bass are sleeping peacefully under a tent until an accident happens and the tent catches fire, forcing them to spend the night out in the open. Even so, the Killer Bass reach camp first, but since Katie and Sadie got lost, their team is incomplete and they lose the challenge. And because of that screw-up of getting lost, Katie is eliminated. But the saddest part for her is being separated from her best friend. That same night, the campers are talking, and in the middle of the conversation, they reveal their worst fear. Because of those revelations, in the next challenge, each contestant has to face their biggest nightmare, and the team with the most courageous participants win. Chris, the absolute psychopath, has the time of his life with these challenges. Tyler can't overcome his fear of chicken, while Beth manages to beat her fear of worms. Owen and Izzy overcome their fear of flying. Harold is absolutely terrified of ninjas. Bridget has to spend 6 hours alone in the forest. Gwen is buried alive for 5 minutes. Trent has to deal with a mime. Cody fails to defuse a bomb and loses. Duncan, however, manages to overcome his fear, resulting in a victory for the Killer Bat. And the one eliminated in this episode is Hyler. The funniest part is that he's sent home on a boat full of chickens, which is literally his biggest fear. Man, that Chris guy, seriously, total sadist. This time the challenge is to travel by canoe to a cursed island. challenge. Carry the canoe across the forest, start a campfire, and then return to the island. Whoever gets back to camp first wins. During this challenge, Cody tries to get closer to Gwen, but gets hit with a canon event that makes him wise up real quick. He then realizes that being friends with her could actually be useful, so he promises to play matchmaker and connect her with Trent. Since Heather had already exposed her secret, everyone knew Gwen had feelings for Trent. That ends up turning the two into friends. Very close friends, to the point where she even gives him her bra as a gift. The groups move across the island until they reach the campfire spot. Izzy knows a technique to make a massive fire, but the problem is that Harold throws the paddles into the fire to help it burn, making the canoe trip back a lot harder. Just when everyone thinks they're about to lose, DJ shows up and carries everyone with pure strength. And just like that, the killer base win another one. In the middle of the campfire ceremony, the army suddenly shows up looking for Izzy. Since she runs away, no one gets eliminated. Yes, out of nowhere, Izzy becomes a criminal wanted by the military. This show is completely insane. The next challenge is basically paintball mixed with a hunting game. In this one, some characters are hunters and others are deer targets, and the hunters are supposed to shoot the deer. At this point in the game, Beth gives up on her alliance with Heather, and the two of them end up turning on each other. Lashana shows up right on time, and things turn into a full-on shootout between the three. Because of that slip-up, the hunters and enemies find them, and that's how the killer base secure the win. During this episode, Cody gets attacked by a bear, which ends up breaking pretty much every bone in his body. And since he can't help anymore due to being physically useless, he's the one eliminated. Goodbye, Cody. We'll always remember the rejection you took from Gwen. Honestly, I probably would have gotten rejected too if I were on that reality show. The next challenge is cooking 3 different dishes that will be judged by Chris, and whoever makes the best food wins. Heather, as always, starts being annoying, and to shut her up, Lashana locks her inside the freezer. And it's exactly stuff like this that makes Lashana one of the GOAT characters in the show. She's not afraid of anyone. Now, this is one of the dumbest moments I've ever seen in my life. The contestants prepare 3 really good dishes, and who do they leave to guard them? Owen. And yeah, there was no other outcome. He eats everything and ruins the challenge. Once again, the killer base win. At the end of the episode, it's revealed that Beth stole an object from the Cursed Island, and because of that, the Screaming Gophers had been losing every single challenge. They were cursed, and because of that screw-up, everyone votes for Beth to be eliminated. The next and 10th challenge of the show is climbing a massive cliff in pairs. In this episode, we find out that DJ has a pet bunny, and he leaves it in Jeff's care. Jeff, in turn, lets the poor little bunny get eaten by a snake, which then gets snatched by an eagle, which then gets eaten by a shark. Goodbye, DJ's bunny. That's the food chain. There's no escaping it. The following challenge is cooking a puffer fish. The detail is that this fish is poisonous, so it has to be cooked very carefully, or whoever eats it is going to have serious stomach problems. On the killer base team, Bridget cooks, and everything goes fine with Jeff. On the Screaming Gophers, Lindsay is the one cooking, and unfortunately, Trent is the one who gets sick. Like, really sick. The guy starts throwing up and ends up being useless for the next couple of episodes. The final trust challenge is shooting an arrow at an apple that's placed on top of your teammate's head. DJ finds out that his bunny was eaten and loses all trust in Jeff. But then Duncan finds another bunny, and DJ regains his trust in his friend. However, because DJ removes his blindfold, his team is disqualified and the Screaming Gophers win. The one eliminated this time is Sadie. To be honest, it's not even that sad because she finally gets to reunite with her best friend, Katie. The next challenge is led by Chef, who puts the contestants through some intense military training. They have to do a bunch of boring and exhausting stuff, the kind of things you'd expect in the army. Meanwhile, Duncan spends the whole time mocking Chef. Because of his disrespect, he's sent to sleep in solitary confinement. Then Courtney comes to visit him, and the two decide to steal Chris's food. Their relationship is really well developed here, forming one of the best couples in the series. And honestly, moments like these, where the show takes time to develop the relationship between the characters, are really strong, and they elevate the series to another level. In this episode, Courtney ends up being eliminated, and everyone is confused about why she received the most votes. Until, right before the end, it's revealed that Harold sabotaged the voting to get Courtney eliminated. The reason? Duncan was constantly getting on his nerve, and as revenge, Harold took out the girl Duncan liked. In the next challenge, the contestants have to compete in several extreme and dangerous sports like skydiving, running through a moose rodeo, and water skiing on mud. Whoever wins the most challenges earns immunity. DJ wins the first challenge, and Lashana wins the second. And just when it looks like Harold is about to win the third one, this happened. You played way too well. That distraction causes Harold to lose focus and fail the challenge, which means the Screaming Gophers win. In the middle of all this chaos, the girls find a love letter written by a secret admirer to a woman whose name isn't revealed. All of them get curious and want to know the truth behind the mystery. At the end of the episode, it's revealed that Harold was the one who wrote the letter for Lashana, the most badass female female character on the show, in my humble opinion. Lashana gives our boy Harold a kiss, and he goes home extremely happy after seeing boobs and getting together with the girl he liked. Now we've reached the point where only 10 characters are left. 5 women and 5 men. The ones you're seeing on screen right now. And this is also the moment where you drop a random comment to boost engagement. Leave a like, subscribe. My dream is to monetize this channel. Anyway, the lunatic Chris splits the contestants into 2 teams. One made up entirely of men and the other entirely of women. The next challenge is a surprise breakfast, where all the contestants have to eat an absolutely awful meal, and the winning team gets to spend a few nights in a luxury hotel. The competition ends in a tie, because neither Bridget nor DJ is willing to eat the final dishes. So, for the tiebreaker, it comes down to a showdown between Owen and Lashana. And who wins? Obviously Owen. The big guy never turns down food and is clearly training for my 600 LB life. In the next episode, there's a plot twist, and 2 characters return out of absolutely nowhere: Ava and Izzy. With that, the teams are officially disbanded. From this point on, every camper is on their own, and the next challenge begins: a spinning wheel full of mini games designed to test the contestants' endurance. The last person left standing earns immunity, and the winner of the challenge is Lashana. At the end of the episode, Eva is eliminated for being considered way too unstable. That's right, she came back just to get eliminated again. The following challenge is a pirate treasure hunt, where the mission is to find keys that open chests granting immunity. In the middle of this challenge, Trent and Gwen grow closer, and the two end up kissing. Heather sees everything and decides to sabotage the relationship by kissing Trent right in front of Gwen, who is completely heartbroken. Lashana finds out about this and forms an alliance to try to take Heather down. In the end, Heather herself wins immunity, and because of the supposed betrayal, everyone votes for Trent for hurting hot goth Gwen. Before leaving, Trent reveals the truth, and everyone realizes they were manipulated by Heather. As revenge, Lashana forces Heather to take a shower with sewer water. She got exactly what she deserved. In the next episode, the challenge is a game of hide and seek, with only 10 minutes for everyone to hide from Chef, who is responsible for finding them all. Anyone who gets found can help Chef search for the others in exchange for immunity. The first ones found are Lindsay and Heather. The guys, meanwhile, form an alliance to protect themselves from the girl. After that pact, the contestants are found one by one, and the last person left hiding is Lashana, smart as always. The goat had hidden underwater. Throughout the episode, Heather crosses the line when it comes to mistreating Lindsay, and Lindsay starts getting fed up with the abuse. But we'll get back to this Lindsay and Heather situation soon. The one eliminated this time is Bridget, leaving poor Jeff heartbroken since he's completely obsessed with her. Another episode begins with Jeff mourning being separated from his girlfriend Bridget, and the new task for the campers is to build their own bicycles and then race using a bike built by another contestant. During the race, Lindsay makes a deal with Heather so both of them can win, but Heather betrays Lindsay and she ends up in last place. And that's when Lindsay finally snaps and speaks her mind. But in that same episode, Lindsay is eliminated. The contestants are invited to watch a slasher horror movie, like Friday the 13th. You know the vibe. After a while, the campers realize that Jeff and Chris have left the island, leaving everyone completely alone out there. The group finds the story of a supposed criminal who had been terrorizing the area, and that's when the challenge begins, escaping from this chainsaw-wielding maniac. This episode is a huge tribute to the horror genre, packed with references to classic slasher movies. The first ones to split off from the group are Izzy and Owen. Heather, as always, keeps being annoying, insisting that it's all just one of Chris's pranks. As the episode goes on, the most random couple in the series forms, Owen and Izzy. With zero shame, Owen hits on the fugitive redhead to see if it'll work, and somehow it does. The big guy scored. And as everyone knows, when two teenagers start hooking up in a horror movie, that's the exact moment the villain shows up. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The criminal causes the two of them to lose the challenge. But before that, Owen makes sure to abandon Izzy to save himself and ends up stumbling into the production cabin where he finds Chris manipulating everything. Eventually, Chef, who was dressed up as the chainsaw killer, finds the contestants one by one until only the two rebels of the show are left, Gwen and Duncan. The bully is wandering around when he runs into Chef, but he steals his chainsaw and defeats him. So that means the villain was beaten, right? Wrong. Because while Gwen is making a snack, the real killer shows up, and Gwen manages to defeat him as well. By the end of the night, Gwen wins immunity, and DJ is eliminated for being a scared coward. Now, there are only 7 contestants left, and the new mission is to hunt an animal and bring it back to camp unharmed. The big catch is that the animal is chosen at random, and the one who gets screwed in this challenge is Heather, who has to capture a bear. Luckily for her, Duncan decides to help. Duncan is the smartest character in the game, always forming strategic alliances to get where he wants. Absolutely bait. No wonder he's one of the goats of the entire franchise. All the contestants do their part, leaving only Heather and Izzy, Izzy. To hunt the bear, Heather puts on that deer costume from the earlier episode, but Izzy thinks it's a real deer and shoots her with a tranquilizer dart. Because of that, Izzy is eliminated. The next challenge is a triathlon. The contestants are handcuffed into 3 teams of 2. The first task has one person chewing the food while the other feeds them with a spoon. The second task is canoeing to the cursed island, and once there, they have to bring back an artifact. But one camper has to carry the other on their back. This episode is one of my favorites because it really deepens the relationship between Jeff and Gwen. Not as a romance like we're used to, but as a friendship, with both of them understanding their differences and accepting each other. Seriously, this episode is awesome, one of my favorites of the entire season. The final task is to assemble a giant totem using the heads of the eliminated campers, arranged in the exact order they were eliminated. The winners are the duo Duncan and Lashana. By the end of the episode, things end up kinda tied, and the one who gets eliminated is Jeff. To close the episode on a high note, he takes a photo with his new friend, Gwen. Goodbye, Jeff. We'll always remember how awesome of a character you were. Always chill with life and always trying to shoot a shot with Bridget. The next episode shows what happened to the eliminated camper. They're taken to a 5-star resort with the best food and tons of luxury. Jeff takes the opportunity to get back together with his girlfriend, Bridget. Courtney is trying to get revenge on Harold for sabotaging the vote. Noah keeps being an asshole, as always, trying to act smarter than everyone else, among other things. At the end of the day, they're given the chance to eliminate one contestant, and because of a huge misunderstanding, everyone ends up voting for Lashana. And man, what a ridiculous elimination. Without a doubt, this was the most pointless elimination of the entire show. And of course, it had to happen to Lashana, the GOAT of this series. In the next episode, a massive storm hits the camp. The campers' beds start floating away, carrying them to a new location. That's when they realize the challenges to survive in this new area. Here, the characters get into all kinds of trouble, including Owen, who starts hallucinating and talking to inanimate objects, just like in Castaway with Tom Hanks. And as you can probably tell by now, this series is packed with references to famous movies, which is another really cool aspect of it. The group gets into even more chaos on the island, and when they finally reunite, Owen is completely unhinged and covered in a beard. The campers slowly start losing their minds on that island. When they finally decide to leave, they run into the reality show production crew. Since everyone survived, they win the challenge. But because it wasn't a real challenge, no one gets eliminated. The next episode begins with the characters being abandoned in the middle of the island. They're now split into 2 teams, Owen and Duncan, Heather and Gwen, or if you prefer, boxers versus panty. The first team to return to camp and touch the giant totem win. Jeff warns them to watch out for bears and the mysterious Bigfoot. As the day goes on, both teams keep pushing through the challenge until the girls come face to face with Bigfoot, and while running away, they run into the guy. They suggest spending the night together to help each other out, but obviously it was all a setup by the girl. When the guys wake up, they realize the girls stole all their supply. It feels like a divorce. Owen even manages to reach the camper, but since he doesn't touch the giant totem, the girls end up winning the challenge. And the one eliminated this time is Duncan, quite literally the best character in the entire show. Goodbye, Duncan. You were a legend. Now there are only 3 competitors left: the venomous snake, the huge fat guy, and the thick goth girl. The next challenge was, without a doubt, the most disgusting one in the entire series. It's honestly hard to even watch, with scene after scene packed with pure grossness. If you watch this while eating lunch, you'll lose your appetite instantly. The mission now was to complete a challenge proposed by each of the eliminated contestants, and these challenges involve so much nasty stuff that I don't even like remembering it. Owen literally eats dog food. Dude, they even end up eating human fingernails. In the end, Gwen and the big guy team up to take down Heather, who doesn't give up easily, but then comes a challenge she simply can't handle: shaving her own head. She refuses, but her head gets shaved anyway. To make it worse, she's also eliminated. Now, there are only 2 contestants left, and the final challenge is a combination of several previous challenges, like climbing a pole, then running 300 meters while balancing and holding an eagle egg, and finally finishing with a race. Whoever wins the race wins the entire show. And to keep the episode from feeling too slow or boring, all the eliminated contestants return, making the race way more chaotic. Now, here's an ultra mega super cool fun fact. This ending was interactive. It really was. People who watched the show when it originally aired were able to vote to choose the winner. And in most countries, including Canada, the country where the show was created, the popular vote went to the big guy. Yes, Owen. Because of that, fans generally consider Owen to be the canonical winner. In some countries, Gwen won instead, but honestly, it doesn't matter because Owen is fat and therefore funnier. And that's how Total Drama Island ends. So, what is there to say about Total Drama Island? Man, I watched this back when I was a kid. It's not the most complex animated show, nor does it have the deepest storyline, but honestly, who cares? It's incredible. incredibly fun. Even with all the gross jokes, seriously, some of them almost made me throw up because they were so weird. The show still manages to be really funny, while also making some subtle critiques of celebrity and reality TV culture, which blew up during the golden age of these shows. And of course, the concept alone already hooks you. It's a bizarre, challenging reality show in animated form. Simply genius. Another point worth mentioning is the character, because every single one of them is more charismatic than the last. My favorite is Duncan, because he's literally me. A man full of flaws, but with a good heart. But there are plenty of other insanely funny characters too, like Owen, Jeff, and Harold. And since I talked about the guys, I also have to mention the girls, who absolutely steal the show. Lashana, who is the ultimate go. Gwen, a hot goth girl I would 100% marry and leave all my possessions to. Courtney also has a strong presence, especially because of the couple she forms with Duncan, which, along with Trent and Gwen, are the two best couples in the series in my opinion. And that brings me to another important point, the couple. Because the show, in a way that's not childish at all, does a great job developing these romantic relationships. Even Harold managed to get a girl. Things got wild. And finally, last but definitely not least, the element that hooked me the most, the elimination. In every single damn episode, someone gets eliminated, and you always get that knot in your stomach wondering who's gonna be the unlucky one this time. That's a feeling you don't get in just any cartoon. A sense of tension and even fear that your favorite character might be eliminated. Sometimes it's even a bit sad because a lot of characters cry when they're kicked out and you end up sympathizing with them. Imagine if that was the dream of your life and you get eliminated without mercy. It's rough, but that's life. I was genuinely pissed when Duncan got eliminated. The guy deserved to win, but whatever. For me, Total Drama Island gets a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really fun show, and if you want a video covering all the seasons of Total Drama, drop a comment and let me know. Help us monetize this channel.